Okay, today's daf yomi is Kesubos Samachdale, Kesubos 64. Amar Rav Tuvi Bar Kisna. We're going to start several lines from the top on 64a that Rav Tuvi Bar Kisna taught. Amar Shmuel Kosvin Igeres Mered al Arusa Ve'en Kosvin Igeres Mered al Shomeres Yavam. So this is referring to writing a letter, a writ, that this person is rebellious. We've been talking about a woman or a wife or a husband who have been rebellious spouses, a rebellious wife, a rebellious husband. And if it's a rebellious wife, we either deduct 7 dinarim or 7 tripikia each week, or according to the Rabboseinu, we make an announcement for 4 weeks, and then we take away everything. And for a man, we add on to the amount he has to pay to Ksuba by 3 dinarim or 3 tripikia every week. So now Rav Tuvi Bar Kisna says that if a woman who is an arusa, that means she's betrothed and she's refusing to get married, we write for her a letter of rebellion, inclusive merit al arusa. We do write it for an arusa, but not for a shomeres yavam, not for a woman who's waiting for yibum from her husband's brother after her husband died without children. So the Gemara challenges this. Is this really what Shmuel said, that we write a geras merit for an arusa but not for shomeres yavam? But we learn in the Braisa, achas li arusa v'nesua. The Braisa said whether she's an arusa or she's fully married, afil nida, even if she's a nida woman, afil chol, even if she's sick, afil shomeres yavam. Even if she's a shomeres yavam, waiting for yibum, she's considered to be moredesh, she's considered to be a rebellious wife. So how come in the first case Shmuel says she's not rebellious by shomeres yavam? We don't write the letter of igeris merit, and here we say that shomeres yavam can certainly be rebellious. The Gemara says, "Kasha, kancha tabahu, kancha tabahi." Well, it depends who is making the claim that she is. Who is making the claim here? If he makes the claim that she's rebellious, then she can indeed be a rebellious wife. But if she's making the claim that he's refusing to marry her, to do even with her, then we're not going to write a letter of rebellion. So kancha tabahu, kancha tabahi. Amar Rav, tachlifa bar avimi, Amar Shmuel, tabahu, if he makes the claim, niskakin lo, we're going to listen to him and write her a letter that she's being rebellious. Tavahi, but if she makes the claim, ein niskakin lo, we're not going to listen to her and write a letter that he's rebellious because he's not doing yibum. The Gemara is going to explain later on, and the reason is because he's not commanded in the midst of Peru or Rafu and the Gemara of having children, and the Gemara is going to discuss this at length. Or not at length, but the Gemara is going to discuss it. So the Gemara says, so if that's the case, the scenario in which Shmuel says that we don't write a letter for shomeres yavam, what was the scenario? Bishatavahi, where she's making the claim that he's rebellious, and that's why we don't write him a letter that he's rebellious, because he's not commanded in the mitzvah. Well, hi kosvin. Well, if that's the case, where you say she's making the claim, why does Shmuel say hi kosvin igeris mered al arusa? Why does it say you do write it about an arusa? It should be la arusa. For the arusa, you write a claim of rebellion against the husband. La arusa mean by way. And Gemara says, well, holo kasha. That is not difficult because tani la arusa. Okay, change the text and read it as for tani la arusa. Read it as for an arusa. So Gemara says, ma'ishna shomeres yavam tu amrin la. Ma'ishna shomeres yavam tu amrin la zil omifkadet. So why in the case of a shomeres yavam do we not say dulo? What's the case by shomeres yavam where if she's making the claim to him, we don't say we're going to write him a letter of rebellion? The amrina law zil omifkadet. We say, tell her, sorry, he's not commanded to have children. Well, if that's the case, and that's why we don't write a letter of rebellion. Malarusa Nami, well, even if she's betrothed him, it's not a case of Shemeres Yavam. Nami name away, Nami name away. Why? We could say the same thing to him. Zil Mefkadet. You don't. He's not commanded to have children. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to marry you. Ela b'ba machmas taina. So really, what's a scenario? Why, when it comes to Arusa, we write a letter against him that he's being rebellious if he's not marrying her, because she comes with a claim. She says, "Yeah, I know he's not commanded, but I need to get a child." She said, "I need somebody to help me while I get older, a stick to hold my hand, and I need a hoe for my grave," meaning to say, I need somebody to bury me. I need some life insurance or insurance for long-term care. Well, if that's the case, says the Gemara, if that's the case, Shemeres Yavam, it should be the same thing. Shemeres Yavam, where she's waiting for Yibum, we should write the letter to him. The Ba Machmas Taina. Why don't we write the letter to him that she's coming with this claim? I want to have a child. So and therefore you should have to do Yibum. So the Gemara says, okay, let's Idi v'Idi shetavahu. Both cases where he's making the claim against the woman. Why in the case of Shmuel do we say that it's a case of by Shemeres Yavam we don't write the letter, but by Arusa we do? And in the other case, we say we do write a letter of Shemeres Yavam. So what's the reason? One is where he wants to do chalitza and she doesn't want to, and one is where he wants to do yibum and she doesn't want to. That if he wants to do chalitza, then and she doesn't want to do it, she just wants to do yibum. We write for him a letter that she's rebelling against him. But if he wants to do yibum, then if she wants to do yibum, we don't listen to him. Meaning to say, if he wants to do chalitza and she wants to do yibum, then we listen to him and write a letter of rebellion against against her. But if he wants to do yibum and she wants to only do chalitza, we don't write the letter of rebellion because already at this point we say, and Rashi says we're following the final halacha of the Mishnah, not the initial ruling, which is that today we no longer force people to do yibum, and so therefore, under those circumstances, we say to him, go marry somebody else. So if he wants to do yibum and she wants to do chalitza, we don't write a letter of rebellion against her. And the Gemara explains, why in the case of yibum, where if he wants to do yibum, we don't write a letter of rebellion. Because we say to him, zil v'nasav is-sachri. So we say, go marry a different woman. Why in the case of chalitza, we could also say to him, if she doesn't want to do chalitza, you could still go marry somebody else. No, because he says, because we have this attachment, they're not going to give me another wife until I do the chalitza. Well, so too by the yibam, so too by the yibam, he could claim, well, since we have this attachment, she's a Shemeres Yavam, nobody's going to give me another wife. So in both cases, he makes a claim against her that he wants to do yibum. There was a change in the way the Rabbanan looked at yibum, and initially the Rabbanan wanted everybody to do yibum, but then the rabbi said we shouldn't do yibum. Titanan, as we learned in the Mishnah in Yevamos, Lamates Amabez, mitzvahs yibum kodemes lamitzvahs chalitza, that the mitzvah of yibum comes prior to the mitzvah of chalitza, meaning to say, at first we said you should do yibum over chalitza, barishona shayim miskaven l'shem mitzvah. That was only initially. So initially, if he would ask to do yibum and she wouldn't want to do it, we would write a letter of rebellion against her. But now where they're not intending to do a mitzvah anymore. We're concerned that the intentions are off, that they're not pure. Therefore, we say mitzvahs chalitza kogdemes mitzvahs yibum. Mitzvah of chalitza comes prior to the mitzvah of yibum. So if he wants to do yibum and she doesn't want to do it, we don't write a letter of rebellion against her. And that's the conclusion of the Gemara. And that explains Shmuel's position, why even though the Tanaitic source says that we write a letter of rebellion against her if she's shomeres yavam and doesn't want to do yibum. That's before they said we shouldn't be doing yibum anymore. But the mitzvahs chalitza, but when Shmuel says we don't write a letter of rebellion for shomeres yavam, that's after we said that you shouldn't be doing yibum anymore. And we said, so the Gemara continues, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu shakol ne'b'dvaro. So we said that we diminish his money if we diminish her money by 7 dinar and 7 tarpikin each week. And if he's rebellious, we add on to the amount he has to pay her by 3 dinar or 3 tarpikan a week. Amar Rav Sheshes, my tarpikin. How much is a tarpikin? Rav Sheshes says astira. It's an astira. Rashi says an astira is sela medina, the kama astira. And how much is an astira? Palgo de zuz, and astira is half a zuz. Rashi says this is a zuz tsuri, a tire coin, which is 6 mea kesef. So a tarpik is 3 meos. So because a tarpikin is an astira, and astira is half a zuz. So it comes out that the tarpik is 3 meos. So we add on to him 3 tarpikin, which is shehein teisha meyan, which is 9 meyan. So if you do 9 and you divide it by 6, you're going to get meya v'chatzil kol yom. So for each days of the week, excluding Shabbos, we're adding on to him 1.5. We're adding on to his ksuba 1.5 meya. So Amalei Reb Chia bar Yosef Shmuel Maishna Iu Diavinale de Shabbos. So how come when it comes to him, when she's rebellious against him, we deduct 7 tarpikim, which is 1 tarpik for every day. So when she's rebellious, we're deleting her 1 coin a day, which is also even on Shabbos. But why, when he's rebellion, we don't give her money for Shabbos. We add on 1.5 meya for every day, excluding the Shabbos. So the Gemara explains, well, for her, we're diminishing. It doesn't look like she's making the money on Shabbos. So Rashi says, Schar Shabbos is prohibited because it looks like she's making money on Shabbos, and then you're going to come to business on Shabbos. But with respect to him, the Osifu, we're adding on to his money. If we add on for Shabbos, it's going to look like he's being paid on Shabbos. Tosfos points out, well, but that's not a problem because it's called Havlah. Vim Tomer asked Tosfos, well, Schar Shabbos they have law mutter. If the money is absorbed into other payments, it's permitted. Kedamrin and Parakazav. Mayas Sachir Shabbos, Sachir Chodesh, Spir Shalama. No, it's no Schar Shabbos. The guy has an annual salary. You don't have to deduct the money for Shabbos. So in this case, Tosfos says it's prohibited because it's not like Havlah. Because we don't add for all the weeks together, for the whole week together, but rather what's from every single day. Because if he's going to get, give in the middle of the week, then we're not going to combine the whole week together. So Tosfos says it's not Havlah. The other question is, are you really saying that if you diminish the money, that's not Schar Shabbos? So what if you have a situation where somebody owes you $1,000 and you say, well, work for me on Shabbos, and if you work for me on Shabbos, I'm going to deduct some of that money. Isn't that money? That's another discussion that the commentaries discuss. So Amalei Rav Chia bar Yosef with Shmuel, ma bein mored lemoredes. Let's just ask a fundamental question. Why is the man who rebels, why does he just have 3 dinar that is added on? Whereas the woman who rebels, she loses 7. Why is the man fined less than the woman? Amarle, so when he says this, the Shmuel explained, go down to the sinful places where the harlots hang out. Who's walking the streets there? Are the women looking to hire the men, or is it the men looking to hire the women? It's the men looking to hire the woman. And so therefore, if she's going to be denied intimacy, it's not going to be as painful for her as if he is denied the intimacy. Alternatively, alternative answer of the Gemara is Ze Yitzro mi b'chutz, Ze Yitzro mi b'fnim. The man, his embarrassment is visible because Rashi says you would be able to see from externally if he is excited, and so therefore he's more embarrassed than if she's embarrassed. Then she would be embarrassed by the lack of intimacy. So now the Mishnah says Hamatras ishtu al yidei shlish. Let's say for whatever reason the man can't give the money to support his wife directly. Maybe he's traveling, maybe he's in a different town, or maybe they just don't live together anymore. But he still hasn't divorced her, so he has to provide for her. And he's doing it through, which is a shlish, through what Rashi says, he's giving her the money through a trustee, and she's not living with him. So somebody who's giving the money through a third party, he has to give her every single week a minimum amount of 2 kavan of wheat, only arba kavan zorin, or double that amount of barley, 4 kavan of barley. And I'm Rabbi Yossi, lo pasaklas Sa'orin, El Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Yossi says the only one who gave her barley is Rabbi Shmuel Shayas Samach Edom, that he was close to Edom. This amount of 4 barley, that was according to Rabbi Shmuel, because he was living near Edom. The Gemara is going to discuss that strange phrase. In addition to the 2 kavan of wheat, or the 4 kavan of barley, that the husband would have to give her a half a kav of beans, chatzi lug shemen, a half a lug of oil, the kav grokeres, a kav of dried figs, or mana devil, or a mana of devela, which is figs also, but this one's they are pressed down into a circle and they're sold by the weight. So he has to give her figs either way. Unless he has no figs, he has to provide her a substitute of a different fruit. He gives her bed with a mapatz u'mechaselas. He gives her bed with a soft mattress and a hard mattress. And he gives her 1 veil every single year, Rashi says. In addition to that, the Chagor Masnea, he gives her a belt to put on. Every year he gives her a new belt. In every festival, he has to buy her a new pair of shoes. The Kiyam Shel Chamishim Zuz Mishana Lashana. And he has to give her new clothing that is worth 50 zuz every year. The Ein Nosin La Lo Chadasha Mimosachama. And when you give her the clothing, don't give her the new clothing in the summer, Rashi says, because they're hard for her in the summer, because it's very hot. And so therefore they're new clothing, so they're very thick. So don't give her the new clothing in the summer. And don't give her the worn out clothing in the winter, because then it's too thin, threadbare. We give her clothing that's worth 50 zuz in the winter, and as they're getting thinner, she wears them in the summer. And she gets to keep the worn out garments even when he buys her new ones. So the Gemara is going to say, well, what does she need it? The Gemara is going to ask that. Rashi says, let's say he gives her additional money. He gives her every week extra money. Then the extra, and also we're saying that in addition to that, if she has extra money, she gets to keep it. What does she have to do with him? What does she have to do for him? Mishkal chamesh shlam shesi b'Yehuda. She has to make a amount of wool. She has to make 5 selah of the shesi thread in Yehuda. Shein etzer shlam beGaliel, which is 10 in the Galilee. Or mishkal etzer shlam erev Yehuda, or a weight of 10 shlam erev in Judah, which is shein etzer shlam beGaliel, which is 20 shlam in the Galilee. And if she was nursing, then she has to produce less earnings. And he has to give her more food. These are the minimum. This is the law with a poor person. But if he will be distinguished, the family be a distinguished family, then everything goes according to the level that they're at. So ask the Gemara, money must need sin. Our Mishnah, which says that she has to get 2 kavin of wheat a week, is not Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, below Rabbi Shimon. It's not Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, and it's not Rabbi Shimon. Because we'll see from the Mishnah in Eruvin, because the 2 kavin a week means that basically the Gemara is going to assume that the 14 meals that a woman has to eat every week comes from those 2 kavin. But we'll see from Eruvin, from the laws of Erev Techumen, where you have to put out food to support you, how much that food translates into. The Erev Techumen is they put out food at 2,000 amos so that you are acquiring your shvi, so you're kone shvi, so you're acquiring that place so that you can walk from beyond that point an additional 2,000 amos on Shabbos. So the Tanah, we learned in the Mishnah Eruvin, kama shi'uro, how much do you have to put down at Erev Techumen to make a mark so that you can walk another 2,000 amos? Mazon shtei seudos. You have to put down food for 2 meals. L'kol echad ve'echad, for each single person. Mizono l'chol v'lo Shabbos. And the Mishnah says you put down the food as though you're going to eat during the week and not for Shabbos. That's the position of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says l'Shabbos v'lo l'chol. That Rabbi Yehuda says they put down the food for 2 meals for Shabbos and not for during the week. And Zeb and Zeb miskavnen lahakel. Both of them are intending to be lenient. What does it mean they're intending to be lenient? Rabbi Meir had the practice, she says, to eat more bread on Shabbos than during the week because he would dip. He had a lot of salatim out there, so he would dip the bread in all the dips. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda would eat bread during the week more because on Shabbos he had a lot of different foods. He had the herring, the kugel, the cholent, and so he didn't need to eat the bread. So that's the dispute. But both of them were intending to be lenient. They were saying they use the bread the lesser amount. So we had said that our mission is not Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka or Rabbi Shimon, because Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka said, Kikar halakuach bepunjon, loaf of bread, halakuach bepunjon me'arba sayin l'sel. He said this loaf of bread that you need to put out is purchased for a punjon from arba sayin for the seller. So Rashi tells us what that means. That Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka is giving a specific amount of a kikar, nasan shir katsuv, kikar halakuach bepunjon. You have a loaf of bread that's purchased for a punyon. Kishalochan dalet seyam besela. When you purchase 4 seyah for a selah, hein shtei seudos. That's the equivalent of 2 meals. And the assumption is that is, Rashi says, a half a kav, because a sela is 48 pundion, 6 mea kesef, dinar or 2 pundion. So that's 12 for a dinar, and 4 dinar for a sela is 48. And 4 is saying refers to. So basically, the upshot of it is that Rabbi Yochanan is saying that for half a kav, you get 2 meals. So if you have 2 kavin, then what you're going to do is you're going to basically 2 times 4. So you're only ending up with 8 meals and not 14 meals. And Rabbi Shimon says, Shtei yados lakikar mishalosh kikaros lakav. So Rabbi Shimon says, no, it's 2/3 of a loaf, and assuming that there are 3 kikaros in a kav. And we'll see what that means. So Rabbi Shimon is saying that the 2 meals comes to 2/3 of a loaf from the ratio of 3 kikaros for a kav. So that means that a kav provides you with 9 meals. So according to Rabbi Shimon, if you have 2 kavin, it's 18 meals. So that's too much. That's too much. We only have to give her 14 meals. Why are we giving her 18 meals? So the Gemara first continues with the Mishnah where it says, Chatzia labayas aminuga, and half of that amount, half of a kav, meaning half of this loaf of bread, which is the amount that you need for the eruv, the amount according to how much you do it. Half of that is the amount for a leper's house. Meaning to say, if you go into the house that has leprosy, for the amount of time it takes to eat that loaf of bread, you're going to become tamei from being in that house. And chatzia of soas hakvia, if you eat half of that amount, then you will become tamei, and you will not be able to eat truma until you go to the mikvah. If you eat something that is that size, v'chatzi, and half of that amount, the kabel tumas open is the amount of food. That food becomes tamei. That food will become tamei if it's that size. It's capable of becoming tamei. So Gemara says, well, money. Who is our Mishnah like? Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, Tamni Avin. Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says the 2 kavin are equal to 8 meals. Not enough. Rabbi Shimon, Tamni Sari Avin. According to Rabbi Shimon, it's 18 meals. It's too much. Gemara says, Olam Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, and it's like Rav Chisda said, don't think that the 2 meals make half a kav, but like Rav Chisda said, say mehen shlish lechanvani. The chanvani has to take his share. So the chanvani takes an extra third. So the chanvani is taking arba sa'im of chitin for the selah, and he takes 1/3 of them for his payment. So therefore, we see in a half a kav, there really is another meal. There's meal for 3 meals, not 2. 2 of them he sells, and 1 he takes for himself. So therefore, if you have a half a kav, that's times 4, you get to 12 meals. So the Gemara says, well, still also, hachinami, I said tilted shadi alaya, so you add 1/3. So instead of 8, you have 12. So the Gemara says, but still it's a question to Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka. Tati tarti sara, I mean, you only have 12 and you need 14. So she says, well, ochelasi moleil Shabbos. Well, on the night of Friday night, she eats her meal with him. So he doesn't have to give her Friday night meal. Well, that goes according to the approach that says that they eat that when it says they eat together on Friday night, it's not a euphemism. It actually refers to eating. But according to the one that says that when the Mishnah says they eat together on Friday night, it refers to tashmish, to intercourse, meiko meimer. Well, if that's the case, then she still needs those 2 meals. And furthermore, that's not 12. That's not 14. Only gets us to 13 because it doesn't say that she eats with him on Shabbos day. Okay, so the chamvani, the shopkeeper, doesn't take 1/3; he takes an extra half, and so therefore that the chamvani takes basically half of it. So therefore, chatzi kav, there's actually 4 meals. So now you have 4 times 4, you get to 16. So you take the half. Well, the Gemara says, well, kasha Rav Chisda. So now we have 16 meals. But the Gemara is going to say, kasha Rav Chisda, Rav Chisda. So now in one place, Rav Chisda says that the Chamvani takes a third, and here it says he takes half. Which is it? Where it says, it depends if you're giving the shopkeeper the wood or not. If you're giving the shopkeeper wood, he takes a third. If you're not giving him the wood, he takes half. But still, the Gemara says, well, now we still have 16 meals, and that's more than 14. So come on, so the one that says 16, it goes according to the position of Rabbi Chidaka that she's actually getting 4 meals on Shabbos. He says you have to eat 4 meals, not shalosh sudos. And so therefore, that's the position of Rabbi Chidaka. This was a dispute in Mesach Shabbos, how many meals a person needs to eat on Shabbos. Chacham say 3, and Rabbi Chidaka says 4. Because it's based upon the pasuk with respect to the month. Echu hayom ki Shabbos hayom Hashem hayom tintu basadeh. The Chacham say the word hayom appears 3 times. It means you have to eat 3 meals. Excuse me. Rabbi Chidaka says. So when it says hayom 3 times, that's aside from the first meal that you eat on Friday night. So anyway, Rabbi Chidaka says 4 meals. So therefore, so that's why you need 16, because it includes all the meals for Shabbos. So the Gemara says, well, even according to the Rabbanan who say that you only eat 3 meals on Shabbos, not 4. So even though she's getting 16 meals and she only needs 15, take out a meal which she's going to have to feed the guests. It's not nice to have no food actually to feed the guests. So the Gemara says, well, once you're saying she's taking out a meal to feed the guests, if you even follow the position of Rabbi Shimon, who says 18, that the 2 kavin has food for 18 meals, according to the Rabbanan, we say give her food for 3 meals. So you get from 18 to 15. She needs 15 meals. And why are we giving her 18? To feed the guests. And Rabbi Chidaka, according to Rabbi Chidaka, take out 2 to feed the guests. Okay, so that is today's daf. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to address it.